Tonight's Eye on America is a hard news look at the high cost of fighting, the kind of fighting that goes on every day on the streets of our inner cities. You've heard about the many people killed in street gang wars over the years. Tonight, CBS News correspondent Troy Roberts takes you inside that world and reports on the wounded. Caring for just one of them can cost taxpayers as much as $5 million.
At least 16 gunshots fired. One of them hit Marcus Norris in the head.
A child has been shot.
At this point, it's not clear who fired the shot.
A child who was shot near Cabrini Green this morning has died.
They are the veterans of Chicago's gang wars. You see them on the campuses of the city's most notorious housing projects, paralyzed and confined to wheelchairs. In a blast of gunfire, they become the disabled victims of violence, and there are hundreds of them in Chicago alone. Every 3 days, a new patient with a gunshot-related spinal cord or head injury was admitted last year to the Schwab Rehabilitation Hospital on the city's west side.
And I have nightmares sometimes at night.
And with the rising number of automatic weapons on the streets, hospital services are beginning to feel the strain. While other large cities across the country are also seeing a rise in the number of spinal cord injuries, Chicago's medical community believes what the city is now experiencing constitutes a public health crisis.
This is a big crisis, because this doesn't go away.
Dr. Michelle Gittler runs the hospital's spinal cord injury program.
It creates a disability, and it creates a horde of people who are on this public payroll because they tend not to have insurance. Your balance is really good.
Andre Matthews, a former vice lord, walked for the last time in 1992.
This is impressive.
After he was shot in the back by a rival gang member. He admits to a time when it was he who pulled the trigger.
I've been responsible for some shootings.
That killed somebody?
I'm not going to say killing, but I just say some shootings.
You've hurt people?
Yeah, I hurt people. Yeah, I hurt a lot of people, but I'm not proud to say it. I'm not proud to say it at all.
Andre had counted on his gang support when he returned from the hospital, but they abandoned him. Ricky Salinas, a former member of the Harrison Gent Gang, says the same thing happened to him after he was shot and paralyzed 2 years ago.
When you come down to reality, it's a lonely life when you ain't useful to them no more. I think I sit here most of the time and I just wonder, why me? Why me, you know? I didn't deserve this. I never did anything this bad. It's a question that I keep asking myself that I can never get the answer to.
97. At the Cabrini Green housing project, bullet scars are badges of honor.
92.
But only if the gang member can walk away.
93. 94 in the foot. Peace out.
Officer Eric Davis has worked to bring peace between the vice lords and the gangster disciples.
I think they become bad press for gangs. And I think once you're in the wheelchair, that's a sign of weakness. That's a sign of vulnerability. And I don't think the gang wants to show that.
Andre says the vice lords would like him to stay hidden. He'd been warned not to come back to his old neighborhood, but he roams the streets anyway, counseling children from his wheelchair.
Stay out of gangs, you know. Y'all will end up like this if you still stay in them gangs, because you know why? The guys that have people do their dirty work for them, they don't care, you know. So don't get in no gang, don't stay in no gang.
This is now Andre's life's work, and it's Ricky's too. They both volunteer for juvenile outreach programs, offering themselves as evidence of gang violence. The tragedy is that it took a bullet to find redemption.
I look at myself now and I like this one better than the old one. That's the only bad thing, I think, is that it took for me to get 4 bullets in my body before I decided to say, hey, this life isn't for me. God gave me a second chance. I'm going to have to try and get a second chance.
In Chicago, I'm Troy Roberts for Eye on America.
And that's part of our world tonight. For the CBS Evening News, Dan Rather reporting. Don't forget the local and regional news on this CBS station. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.